Welcome to the Breakthrough Investor Show. My name is Charles Rose Jr., and we focus on breaking through limitations and barriers to get you to that next level of investing. With me is William Palmer, my amazing co-host. And in today's episode, we will be talking about how to overcome the fear of investing to help you crush your real estate goals or any investing goals in general.
That's right, Charles. We'll also go over a couple of steps to help you break through the fear of the unknown. Let's get started.
William, my brother, how fantastic are you doing on this day?
Oh, I'm having a great day, Charles. It's actually pretty sunny, fairly warm at like 53 degrees, so I'm enjoying today. It's been a great day. Really looking forward to kind of diving into today's episode, man. It should be good.
I don't know how you're enjoying 53 degrees. I'm just going to stop you right there. Are you being sarcastic?
Well, it's a little bit warmer than it has been, so
that's not enjoyable weather. All right. We'll take it. But while that might not be a true excitement, that type of weather, the topic today is going to be very important for investors and people listening to this episode, because this is something that stops us and stagnate us a lot of times, right? And so our topic is how to overcome the fear of investing. And some of you may be listening and you'll be like, oh, fear, I'm good, I'm an investor, great. If that's you, that is awesome. But for many people, they have fear of investing. And even if you didn't have that fear to start, maybe you may be having a big fear to scale your business to the next level. When you're looking at these big numbers, you're like, wow. Like for me, I know like when I was investing in single family, I had some fears and everything getting started and all that good stuff, which I was able to overcome. But when I started like focusing on multifamily, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I look at the price of those properties, I'm like, that's a big number for me right now. You know what I mean? Like millions of dollars. That's a big number. We're not talking about, some $30,000 or $50,000 single family property home that I bought. We're talking, millions of dollars. And so sometimes that can be scary itself. Would you agree with that, William?
Oh yeah, 100%. But the interesting thing that I think I have learned, and you correct me if you agree, Charles, and if you disagree, by all means, let's have a conversation about it. But when I started looking at houses or even multifamily, things like that were in the $1 million range, like 7-figure type stuff, I didn't have an astronomical amount of fear, which is kind of odd. And the reason I didn't is because I realized if the numbers work, it doesn't matter how big the price tag is. So if it cash flows what you need it to cash flow, it takes care of capital expenses and all the other jazz associated with it, and you have 1 or 2 exit strategies and you buy it the right way, it's really not that bad. But getting to that point, I remember buying my first single family house. And I had bought a house before. The first house I had ever bought personally, I bought with 1 sheet piece of paper contract and $100 down. And it wasn't even for sale at the time. I had heard a rumor, and it was this house so-and-so. And so I went up and knocked on it when I happened to be driving by it, and I said, hey, you're going to be selling? And they looked at me like I was insane, and they were like, yeah, okay, I'm interested. Can I walk through it? And they didn't know what to do with me, so they said yes. And we got done, and I was like, what do you want to sell it for? They told me the price. I said, okay, that sounds reasonable. I'll be back tomorrow with a contract and $100. And I left, and they must have not thought I was going to show up the next day, but I did. And they signed the contract and we closed in 14 days. And
wow.
It was that was a God thing. There's no way that should have happened because I never heard
about this one for you. This was the house that you were living in?
It was the first house I ever bought when I got out of the military.
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I've heard that this works this way. Let's just go for it. Got a lawyer and he handled all the fees and the contract and the whole 9, the closing. And yeah, it was that's how I bought my first house. And now, knowing what I know, I'm like, that's a really strange story. Like, that shouldn't have happened. But so when it came to like multifamily and looking at large numbers, for me, it wasn't a huge jump, which was, I think, kind of odd. Once the first house I bought as a rental property, I had more fear with that one, I think, than I did with anything else.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's amazing how everyone has like a different point where fear might creep in. For you, like you said, it was like the first one. Okay, the fear of the unknown, and then in your mind that okay, I have this experience, right? That it's just a bigger number, right? It's just more zeros on the end, right? And so that leads me into some of the ways that people can overcome fears. Would you say, William, was getting the experience and education and knowledge about it help you to overcome that fear when dealing with bigger numbers?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things really is having other people that have been successful already, or even are not, or just starting out, and are willing to look at it and look at the deal with you and just get a second set of eyes. Having that friend group, that network group that you can call and say, hey, I've got this deal. I think it's good. Would you look at it? Would you tell me what you think? What do you see that's wrong with it? What's the problems? Where is this a bad deal? And having that friend group and hanging out with that friend group was absolutely instrumental. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, Charles, you've looked at a couple of mine, I think, and stuff like that. And it's great to be able to send that to somebody and have somebody put a second set of eyes. And so that alleviates a lot of fears, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think setting goals, like small goals, like if you have a fear, like this one kind of blew my mind. Some people have a fear of talking to somebody on the phone. I'm like, man, we got to do that as an investor. That's how we get stuff done. You got to talk to them on the phone. But if you set goals and say, okay, on this day, I'm going to call 3 people. I'm going to call 3 mortgage brokers, and I'm going to ask them what kind of loan products they have, what's their loan to value, what's their minimum loan amount, where do they lend, and just have those 3 questions, but call 3 people and do it. The more and more you do it, the more repetition you get, the more comfortable you're going to be.
Mm-hmm. That's so true, William. And because I know for me to help myself get over that fear of getting into multifamily it was exactly that, setting those small goals. So, I have a simple small goal, which is, reach out to 5 brokers, so brokers is what we call, real estate agents in the multifamily world, right? Reach out to 5 of them a week. I can do that, right? That doesn't sound scary, like, writing a check for $10 million, right? Just starting from those small steps, right? Reaching out to brokers, analyzing deals, achieving those small things. I always tell people big goals is the sum total of a bunch of little smaller goals, right? And so as the more you achieve those smaller goals, that work towards the big goal, because then you don't want to be all over the place. You want to make sure your small goals are aligned with your big goal. Then that helps you to be so much more successful when you do it that way. And then another thing that's pretty helpful as well to overcome these fear is getting a coach. That's so important. I know for me, it was life-changing. Like, in the first time I got a coach, for me, I had to break through a living-in mindset view of, it's expensive, or I can do it by myself. And I had to come to the realization, William, that every time I did something on my own, I either failed, right, at it, and failure isn't a bad thing, depending on what you do with that failure, or it took me a long time to figure something out, right? Or I may still be figuring it out because I didn't reach out and get the help that I needed. And so getting a coach definitely helps you get through that fear. I remember, our coach, Dustin Hiner at Master Passive Income, he would tell us and other students like, hey, if you don't want to buy this property, I'll buy it. It's a good deal, right? So you've been hearing things like that, right? So more than the fear to take action, I guess, FOMO can work sometimes, fear of missing out.
You sure can.
So, really, like, shoots. I'm taking a whole new spin on this. Like, sometimes, why overcome fear when you could use it to help you get to that next level sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
So, and using it might be, could arguably be a way of overcoming it, right? Using it wisely, because I believe, William, that God designed us a certain way for a certain reason. Like for example, we should be afraid of snakes and things like that, or things that can harm us. You may disagree with that, but you should, because guess what? that fear is going to help you get the heck away from that thing that can hurt you, right? Or maybe the fear of your little one putting their hand in a socket. That's a healthy fear to get you to get outlet protectors. And I mean, I'm speaking my life story right now because my little one just started walking, recently, and we have to watch her for everything. So, so sometimes fear can be healthy depending on what you do with it. So a way to overcome it is to use it wisely, and getting a coach, I think, is one of the best ways to overcome your fear, because I mean, that covers, getting educated. Most coaches help you with your goal setting. They help you with accountability, so many different things. It's like a one-stop shop for overcoming fear.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I think a lot of people can do it without a coach, but in all honesty, paying a coach to streamline what you're wanting to do. Yes, it may be expensive. It may cost several thousand. Even some of those are several $1,000s a month. I've heard some that are astronomically high, and I'm like, eventually, I will be at the point where I'm willing to pay that for that level of coaching. So coaching is fantastic, but one thing you can totally do on your own that doesn't require coaching is just education. You're going to get education from your coach, but if you can go ahead and get that ball rolling, go ahead and start reading some books. Everybody did
podcasts, right?
Yeah, podcasts. Absolutely. I mean, that's how I got started, was a podcast. But like, even it's as simple as, like, not to reference the Purple Bible or anything, but if you start reading Robert Kiyosaki, it's like where a lot of people started. Then you read his 2 books, and then pick somebody's book that you have heard of and start reading it, or go on a couple of forums, or ask Google what's the top real estate books to be reading about which part of real estate you want to be learning about, or what type of investing that you want to be going into, and start. The more knowledge you get, I think the less fear that you have. So, and whether you get that by reading, by networking with others that have done it before you, or by listening to podcasts, however you got to do it, that's going to be an instrumental step into getting you more comfortable into that next level where you can actually break through that mental hurdle and start your journey. It's just one stepping stone. So you got to keep pushing.
100%. You got to keep pushing through. And another way too is even a course too, right? So maybe, maybe it's going back to Robert Kiyosaki. I almost said you can't afford it, but instead of saying you can't afford it, how can I afford it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's just say your bank account isn't, the balance on it is not more than your coaching fee, right? Maybe you want to start with a course, right? Or another way too is if you admire someone and you really want to learn from them and be connected to them, maybe try to find a way to add value in their life, right? We interviewed one of our guests who had mentioned it was Cody Berman. He mentioned that he reached out to someone that he really admired and he wanted to learn from. And he told him, like, I will plan, it was like he had a book tour going on. He said, I will plan, schedule, and do everything for your book tour for free, for this amount of time. Or, another good way of, some people who reached out to him who wanted his help, they're like, hey, I will take all of your videos and clip it up and turn it into shorts. So it's a short video, with a short message that attracts listeners in. And so there's so many different ways that you could add value to a coach, or you may have a buddy who may be good at something, who may be more than glad to help you out, right? Like if I want to know about mobile park homes, like I'm going to go to William. Right? William always say, I'm not an expert yet, but I'm like, dude, you know more than me. And if you don't know something about mobile park homes, you know someone who knows the answer.
And so likelihood, yeah,
right. And so if I want to know about mobile park homes, in many cases, you're my first stop shop, right? And sometimes you send me to another shop, but it's okay.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's about spreading the wealth, so to speak. But it's like, for me, if I'm like, Charles, I need better information on how to find private money investors, which we talked about previously. Well, you're quite frankly better at finding private money than me. So, I mean, however it's worked for you. I think we touched on the last episode, but if it's as simple as that. Not everything that you do you necessarily you can add value in other ways. Use your skill sets that you already have. You got the gift of gab, and you're really good at just talking to people left and right and making connections for people, helping them get deals done. You need to meet this person because so-and-so. There's a plethora of different ways to be adding value.
That's so true, man. William, I just want to encourage like all of our listeners, everyone who's listening to this episode, if you have some fears, it's so important to identify them and deal with them, because that's the first step to changing in anything. The first step is identification or awareness, right? So make a list. What are the fears that you're dealing with? What is stopping you from investing in that property, that business, whatever it is? What's stopping you from getting to that next level? Identify them. It's so important to address them, right? That's the first step, right? And once you identify them, then you could figure out, okay, maybe I'm afraid to purchase this mobile park home because I don't have enough knowledge in it. So I'm gonna find a coach or a mentor or whatever it is, right? Or maybe I'm afraid to use private money because I just don't know how it works, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm going to find a friend who knows about it, or get a book about it, or whatever it may be, right? And so when you identify them, then you could do some reflection and figure out, okay, so what's causing this fear, and what can I do to overcome it? Maybe you already know what to do, right? Maybe you just need the accountability, like William was talking about, getting around the right people. I don't remember if you said this episode or another episode, but you talked about it extensively, about being around the right people and how you automatically become good or better at whatever it is just from being around the right people.
Absolutely. People are naturally sponges. But getting around people that are going to affirm, you're going to give you affirmation for what you're doing and why you're doing it. But another important part that I think when it comes to identifying fears and looking at, okay, do I need more coaching? Do I need to read this book? Do I need more knowledge? Well, if you look at it this way, what would happen if you didn't do anything? If you didn't look at this deal, you didn't buy this deal, what would happen, or what would be the result of not challenging that fear and saying, this is what would happen if I did, and this is what would happen if I didn't? Because the not acting on that is just as important also. And I'm not saying like take every deal that comes your way. There are definitely bad deals out there more often than not, but we want you to get the good deals. But think about sometimes, if it's a good deal and you know it's a good deal, what's holding you back? And then think about, why should I not take that deal? And if you can't come up with a really good reason, float it by somebody else that you trust and get their take on it. That's what I would try to do. And then, yeah, Charles, you got anything else?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, yeah, I totally agree with you, man. And as you're talking, like, you said, there's things might be holding you back, right? Sometimes I play songs in my head. There's nothing holding me back. You want to get to that point. I'll stick to, investing versus singing, but yeah, I mean, it's, what I would say is definitely, you got to identify those fears in order to crush them, in order to take it to that next level. In order to figure out what you need to do to be successful, you have to identify them. And, the cool thing about what we're doing with Breakthrough Investor is we're going to bring a bunch of different investors on our show to just sit with us and share with you how they overcame their fear, how they overcame limiting beliefs. What did they do to use that fear to get them to that next level of investing? So we want to encourage you to continue tuning in, continue listening, because there's going to be many different points that is going to change your life. So I just want to encourage you all to keep on coming back, and we're going to continue producing great, valuable content for you. So I'll leave it right there, and we will see you all on the next episode.